Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing an Arcana Knight deck profiles. I'm really excited for this one because it's actually a Patreon request deck profile for Jin. So Jin actually asked me to do this for him because this deck is a really insane deck that can actually summon Slifer the Sky Dragon, the Winged Dragon of Ra, and some really cool old school ace cards that Yugi used back in the day. I am really excited to show you guys this deck because this deck is one of the decks that I've been looking forward to the most out of King's Court as well, and it is absolutely crazy. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below just like Jin did for all those awesome rewards like getting your name in the description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron along with test hands. And definitely give Jin some love down in the comments down below. So without further ado guys, let's get straight on into this. So first off, you got to play 3 copies of Joker's Knight. Joker's Knight is one of the best cards in this entire deck, and it has an insane effect. You can send a Queen's Knight, King's Knight, or Jack's Knight from your deck to the graveyard to instantly special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, this card's name becomes the sent monster's name until the end phase, which is really cool, because if then you normal summon out a copy of King's Knight after sending Queen's Knight, this card becomes Queen's Knight, and then you get the effect of King's Knight on the field, which is really awesome. And then during the end phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can target one other light warrior monster in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck. If you do, add this card to your hand, which is really cool to be able to just kind of recur this card over and over and over again once you get a single copy of it into your hand. We then play 3 copies of Imperial Bower. Imperial Bower is a really good card as well in here. This card reminds me a lot of Neospatian Connector, because if you control no monsters, you can tribute this card to take 2 different monsters from your deck among Kings, Queens, and Jack's Knight, and either add them to your hand or special summon each monster. This card is essentially a 1-card Isolde or a 1-card rank 4. This card is really, really good in this particular deck, and I love the way that this deck assists, or this card assists this deck to be able to go into Isolde instantaneously, to go into copies of Utopia, double instantaneously, and some really, really good cards. We then play 3 copies of King's Knight. King's Knight is very simple when this card is normal summon. Where you control Queen's Knight, you can special summon a Jack's Knight from the deck. Basically, you have to have King and Queen to summon Jack, so it's very simple. We then play 3 copies of Queen's Knight. Queen's Knight is a vanilla monster that you have to play in this deck in order to special summon out the copy of Jack's Knight for the effect of King's Knight, which is pretty cool as well. We then play only 2 copies of Jack's Knight because he is a little bit of a brick in this particular build, but he's still really good. You just play the 1 copy of him because you just want to be able to not see him in your hand. You want to be able to special summon him out with stuff like Joker straight, or use your copy of King's Knight to be able to special summon him to your side of the field. We then play, for the last kind of normal summon in the deck, we play a single copy of Inferno Knight Renault for the low-level warrior monsters, I guess. And this card is really good in the deck. I really like Inferno Knight Renault because this card is just such a good extender for the deck. Because if you control a fire warrior monster, which you don't play any fire warrior monsters, you basically just play this for Isolde, then you can special summon this card from your hand. And if summon this way, it's treated as a turn. You can only special summon this card once per turn this way. And if this card is special summoned, then you can target a fire warrior or an equipped spell that's banished or in your graveyard, except another copy of itself, and add it back to your hand. Which this card can actually search the Living Fossil, which is a monster reborn in this build, off of summoning this card off of a Isolde, which is just really, really busted in this build. We then play for the boss monsters. We're going to be playing a single copy of Arcana Triumph Joker. This card is really cool. It's a retrain, technically, of Queen's Knight, which is kind of cool. This card is really awesome. It's kind of like a mini Slifer the Sky Dragon, because if this card is in your hand or grave, you can send 1 King's, Queens, and Jack's Knight from your hand or from your face and reveal to the graveyard, and then special summon this card. It gains 500 attack times the combined number of both players' hands, which is really awesome. Because if your opponent has 5 cards in their hand, gains 2,500. If you have 5 cards in your hand, it goes up to 5,000, which can be really big. And this deck has a lot of hand control where you can just add cards from graveyard to hand really, really easily. It also has the ability that you can discard 1 card and destroy all face-up cards your opponent controls with the same type monster, spell, or trap as the discarded card. This card is arguably the best retrain of all of them compared to our Arcana Extra Joker, Arcana Knight Triumph Joker, and your Arcana Knight Joker. Like, this card is probably, in my opinion, the best of the 3. It is a main deck card, but it's easily searchable because these 2 are the ones that I usually get for my Isolde play. I'll summon out the copy of Renault and search the copy of Triumph Joker for the effect. We then play a single copy of Slifer the Sky Dragon. This card is extremely easy to summon this deck. It's a great boss monster because you can actually summon it with Thunder Speed Summon, which is great in this deck. It has the ability that you have to attribute 3 monsters to normal summon it, just like every other Egyptian god card. And this card's normal summon cannot be negated. When it's normal summon, cards and effects cannot be activated. And then once per turn, during the end phase, this card was special summoned, you send it back to the graveyard. It gains 1,000 attack for each card in your hand. And if a monster is normal or special summoned to your opponent's field in attack position, that monster loses 2,000 attack. And if it does, it's reduced to 0 as a result of this effect, you instantly destroy the card. I think arguably that is one of the best effects on any of the Egyptian gods because it makes your opponent either play defensively or it makes them not summon in attack mode at all because they're going to lose monsters. We then play a single copy of the Winged Dragon of Ra as well. This card is an OTK maker. This card, when it's summoned to your side of the field, you can pay life points so you only have 100 left. And this card gains attack and events equal to the amount of life you paid. And also, if you just summon this without paying any life points, you can pay 1,000, target a card on the field, and destroy it as well. So it's spot removal, which is pretty good. But it also has the ability that you have to attribute 3 monsters to normal summon this card. It cannot be normal summon, or it cannot be normal set. And also, other effects cannot be activated in this card, cannot be negated of its summon. So it cannot be Solemn Judgment, which is pretty cool. We then play a single copy of the Winged Dragon of Ra Sphere mode. You can search this card because it has question mark attack and question mark defense with Thunder Speed Summon. So this card's pretty good just to out your opponent's boards, which is why I really like to play the Thunder Speed Summon. You play 4 targets for it, so it's pretty easy to pop off in this particular deck with any of these cards. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. The 3 Ash Blossoms are basically just here to stop your opponent from all sorts of shenanigans. It's really a great card in this particular build to help you out to just stop your opponent. We then play 3 copies of Cyframe Gear Gamma. Cyframe Gear Gamma is a great card in this deck because it stops other hand traps. And plus there's certain cards like Imperial Bower, Unexpected Die, Joker's Wild, Joker's Straight, and even Rhoda in this deck that just really have a problem with your opponent Ash Blossoming you. And so you have this particular card to stop those and give you 2 monsters on the field to go into a Cyframe Lord Omega or use for tribute fodder to go into a Egyptian god, which is awesome. We then play a single copy of Cyframe Cyframe Driver. Cyframe Driver is just here to summon off your copy of your Gamma. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Reinforcements in the Army because Rhoda basically just searches all of the monsters in the deck that are warriors that are level 4 or lower. 1 copy of Double or Nothing because you can OTK your opponent by summoning Utopia Double, swinging at your opponent, negating the attack with the Utopia that you summoned on top of the Utopia Double for 5,000, and then basically negating the attack with Utopia's effect, dropping Double or Nothing, and then OTKing for 10,000. Which is really awesome. We play a single copy of Living Fossil because it's basically a monster reborn that you can get back with Renald, which is really cool. And it's the 1 equip spell that you actually play in this deck for Azul. We play a single copy of Face Guard Fusion. This card is pretty good because it helps you go into your Arcana Knight Joker fusion monster. It's kind of neat because it's kind of like Shadow Fusion, lets you fusion summon a Light Warrior fusion monster from your extract using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. And if you control kings, queens, or Jack's Knight, you can activate the effect to use 1 monster from your deck as well, which is really good just to use 1 monster from the deck. So you only have to control like a Jack's Knight, a King's Knight, or a Queen's Knight on the field, and then you can use 1 in the hand and then 1 in the deck, which is why I play this card as a 1-of in here. It is a 41 card deck. You don't have to play it, but I still really like to because it's super nostalgic. We then play 3 copies of Joker Straight, which is arguably one of the best cards in the entire deck that has a very mild drawback to it. This card is really, really, really good. I love the artwork. It's probably one of my favorite artworks of all the new cards. It has the ability to discard a card, and then you get to special summon a King's or Queen's Knight from your deck, and add a King's Knight or a Jack's Knight from your deck to your hand. You're always going to search King's Knight, never going to search Jack's Knight. Then immediately this card resolves, you get to normal summon 1 monster, which is always going to be the King's Knight, to then special summon the Jack's Knight from deck. So basically this card is a 1 card that turns into 3 cards, which is pretty good besides the card you have to discard. And it also has the ability that you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except for Light Warrior monsters. And then during the end phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 Light Warrior monster in your graveyard and shuffle it into the deck. And if you do, add this card to your hand. So it's really great to just recur all your light warriors back in the deck. And this card, once you get it once, you're just going to be able to pop off with it multiple times. We then play 3 copies of Thunder Speed Summon. This card is nuts. I never thought we would get a card like this that actually searches the Winged Dragon of Ra and Slifer. Now we just got to get an Obelisk Searcher. And during the main phase or battle phase, immediately this card resolves, you get to normal summon 1 level 10 or higher monster. Or if you control Queens, Kings, and Jack's Knight, you can apply the effect instead to add a level 10 non-dark monster with question mark attack from your deck to your hand. And then you can normal summon after immediately this card resolves a level 10 monster, which is really, really good. Just immediately be able to normal summon an additional level 10 monster because then you can summon out Slifer with this card. We then play just 2 copies of Unexpected Die. I only have 3 copies, or only have 3 Queen's Knights in the deck to be able to use with this, so I just play 2 copies of this card. I don't want to see it all the time because it kind of conflicts with the Bower a little bit, so I just play the 2 copies of it because it's a great starter, but other than that, you don't really super need the card. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps, which we only play 3 traps, and they're all of the same, and it's 3 copies of Joker's Wild. So Joker's Wild is an insanely good card in the deck, because during the main phase, you can send 1 spell from your deck to the graveyard that specifically lists Queens, Kings, and Jack's Knight in the text, and this card copies that card's effect, which is pretty cool. It also recurs itself just like Joker Straight. You get to target a light warrior monster in your graveyard, shuffle it in the deck, and add this card from your graveyard back to your hand, which is really good. But the main thing that you're going to be copying with this is either your only real 2 targets is Joker Straight and Face Guard Fusion, which is why I play a single copy of Face Guard Fusion, because you can copy that 1 card if you've already got a Joker Straight lined up ready to go, which is really cool. You can also copy Thunder Speed Summon if you want to, because it does specifically list this card, which is why this card is so good, because it literally is a wild card. Just like in the game of Uno, this card is pretty much a wild card that it can become anything, which is awesome. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Arcana, Extra Joker. This card is pretty good. It's actually a retrain of King's Knight, which is awesome. It takes 3 different warrior monsters with different names to summon it, and then once per turn, when a spell or trap or monster effect is activated that targets this card on your side of the field, then you can, or a monster this card points to, quick effect, you can discard the same type of card, monster, spell, or trap, negate the activation of that card. Now, that does sound like a little bit of a watered-down version of Utopia, or not Utopia, but Decode Talker, which it is, but you have to play it in the deck because it is a 2800 beat stick, and it's a light warrior that you can link summon to when you use copies of Joker Straight. It also has the ability that when this link summon card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you get to special summon 1 level 4 normal monster from your deck, and if you do, you get to add 1 level 4 warrior monster from your deck to your hand, which is pretty good because it's basically a special summon Queen's Knight, and then add King's Knight from deck to hand. 1 copy of Appaloosa because it gets you additional negates, which is really helpful. Access code because it pops stuff. 1 copy of Unicorn. I will mention, you guys, if you don't want to play the access code, you can change it out for a Boral Sword. That is an option. This deck just puts out monsters like crazy, so Boral Sword is a great option if you want to change it out. 1 copy of Phoenix because it does pop spells and traps. Isolde because it's a great extender in this deck because it's going to be one of the main cards that you're going to be going into all the time. 1 copy of IP Masquerena because it's a really good card to be able to go into for your opponent's turn, to be able to throw this card out on your side of the field and then go into a copy of, say, the Joker Straight to summon out all 3 of those monsters is just really cool with Joker's Wild. We then play a second copy of the Arcana Knight Joker, which is a retrain of the Jack's Knight, which is kind of cool that you have a retrain of Jack, King, and Queen. And this card is the old school fusion card that Yugi used to use that has the ability that it takes a Jack, Queen, and King to summon this card. And a fusion of this card can only be done with the above fusion materials, and once per turn, when a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated that targets this card face up on the field, quick effect, you can discard the same type, monster, spell, or trap, negate the activation. Pretty good. It's a really good card in this deck to have a 3800 beat stick, so it's just a really good, helpful card. 1 copy of Cyframe Lord Omega can rip cards out of your opponent's hand, and you can use it very simply with your copy of your Gamma. 1 copy of Pleiades because it balances stuff, and it's really easy to actually summon this card with a copy of your Jack's Knight and a copy of Joker Knight. We play a single copy of Utopia and Utopia Double for the OTK, which is really good to be able to summon Utopia Double and then Utopia on top of it to go in for your opponent it for 10,000. It's really, really helpful to go in for those really awesome OTK plays. 1 copy of S Utopia, the Lightning, because sometimes you will draw into the double or nothing. So you have this card to throw down on top of a Utopia to go 10,000 damage, which is really nice. 1 copy of 41 Baguska, because you can use this card to throw in defense position to be a little bit of a defensive play going first. And then a single copy of Zeus, because you can summon Zeus very easily in this deck, and board wipe, which is also very, very helpful. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. It's a really awesome deck. I hope you enjoyed this one, Jim. It was a blast to build this deck and play test it with you. It is a really fun deck to play around with. And it's just an awesome deck that they're still making nostalgic cards for Yugi's old school cards. Hopefully we get other nostalgic monsters that get their decks based around them. I would love to see some different ones like this. Like, it's just super cool to give them their own archetype. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below and give Jen some love down in the comments. And we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.